Well, let's speak to our senior political analysts about this, Marwan Bishara, who's joining us from Paris. Marwan, as we saw there, Netanyahu has been fixated with Iran's nuclear program for decades now. Will the US finally give him what he wants?
It seems it is. Just judging from the movements of the American president and the various reports the past 24 hours, clearly Trump is up to something when he talks about unconditional surrender. But this is not just Netanyahu. Just for the record, since you've had this excellent package, it's good to recall that the United States started warning about Iranian nuclear weapon back in 1981. That's before Netanyahu entered into politics. And it had repeated that for the past 40 years as well. It seemed like the Americans and Netanyahu have been echoing one another about an Iranian threat. And the question is why? Why do they do that? Especially knowing that it's not true. It's just proved to be false each and every time. The instrumentalization of a foreign threat is very important for the likes of Netanyahu and for various American presidents, because it allows them to do a number of things. For Netanyahu, it allows him to deflect away from his occupation and his war crimes, his genocide in Palestine. For the United States, it justified their presence in the Middle East. So it's very important for them to do that. Even before the Ayatollahs came to power in the late 70s, I mean, look at the record. In the 1950s, it was Nasser of Egypt, the Hitler. In the late 60s, it was Arafat. In the late 70s, it was the Khomeinis. In the late 80s, it was Saddam Hussein, the new Hitler. In the late 1990s, it was Al-Qaeda. In the early part of the century, 2009, it was Ahmadinejad back into Iran. And again, in 2010, it was Hamas, right? So every 10 years, they threaten with someone in the Middle East and call it a major threat, the new Hitler, and so on and so forth, justifying their policies.
Are we going to see the Iraq playbook, you think, being applied to Iran?
There's absolutely no doubt about that. If I had any doubt, I could then just add up the 4 or 5 elements that built up in a manufactured way by the Bush administration. One, that the nuclear threat was imminent, that a yellow mushroom cloud would be approaching America if America didn't act first. That Saddam was going to give those nuclear weapons to Al-Qaeda. Now they said, Netanyahu says that Iran was going to give them to the Houthis. And that nothing short of regime change is going to happen. Again, see that with Iraq, now we see it with Iran. So Netanyahu is definitely playing that book each and every step of the way. And the problem is that they are eating it away, both in Israel and the United States. In Israel, there is a kind of a bit of an appetite for it. There's an Israeli scholar, an excellent Israeli scholar, who wrote the book called Iran Phobia.
Marwan, as we're talking, we are watching live pictures of the skies over Tel Aviv, and the Israeli military saying its defensive systems are operating to intercept missiles which have been just launched from Iran. We saw that a few minutes ago, and the interceptors apparently at work right now. This is a live picture from Tel Aviv, Israel. The Iranians are firing a number of missiles in the last few minutes, which we understand have been intercepted by Israel's defense systems. We were talking about the Americans. You mentioned George Bush, Marwan. What do you think has changed now, specifically now, to make Donald Trump consider and determined, it would seem, to take the U.S. to war? He'd been so vocal in the past about wanting to keep the Americans out of the world's problems, out of the Middle East. What's changed, do you think?
He's actually threatening, or just his moves are threatening to split his MAGA movement. I think more probably than half of the movement disagrees totally with what he's doing. If you go into the ecosystem of the MAGA movement, you see how furious they are with Trump and about what he's doing and how he's manipulated by the likes of Netanyahu. I think he somehow saw the Israelis take on the Iranians, and he saw the Israelis bombing right, left, and center in Iran, and he was encouraged. And he started talking about success, and it's our military taking over Iran. The problem is not here, and that's what he seems not to understand. Because mission accomplished in Iraq was done several months after the war started. But it was not mission accomplished. That's the problem here, is that you can even occupy Tehran as Bush occupied Baghdad. But then what? Then 20 years of tormenting the Iraqis, and the Iraqis tormenting the Americans, costing them more than $3 trillion. Look at Pakistan, look at Afghanistan. They occupied it in a matter of hours. They kicked out the Taliban. For 20 years, they have gone on in that war, and they got humiliated. The same could happen in Iran.
So, which brings me to this question then. What is the only way, if there is a way, that Israel and the US can defeat Iran today?
They can defeat Iran. But then what? This is the problem, right? These are all Pyrrhic victories. Victories are concepts for, narrow-minded politicians and poets. There is no victory because they've tried it for so many years. Didn't they start with regime change in Iran back in 1953, 70 years ago? And what's the result? Didn't they do the same once and again? How many wars were fought by Israel and the United States in the Middle East? And each time they declared victory, they declared defeat. No one is defeated because this cycle of wars and violence in the Middle East cannot be won by airplanes. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to occupy. If you occupy Iran, it's going to be a major debacle. These sorts of things require more than military solutions. You can't transform societies by military solutions. We are not in the mindset of World War II. This is a whole other ballgame. Iran is a signatory to the NPT. Iran does not have nuclear weapon. As your report showed, the director of national intelligence said that since 2003, actually precisely since October 2003, they abandoned any such ideas because they came out with an edict by Khamenei at the time saying we are not pursuing any nuclear power, period. Right? That was 20 years ago. And they are still rambling about the same point again and again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your insight, as always. Marwan Bishara, our senior political analyst, joining us there from Paris.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.